Hi there, welcome to kneppyinvests. I do get quite a few requests to look at companies on the ASX. I'm very happy when I get these comments in my videos or on Twitter to look into these companies. So I will actually look at them very quickly to see what they do, what their revenue levels are like. Now, the two most requested companies that have been requested is the two companies I'll be focusing on in this video, and those are BPH Energy and Harvest Group Technologies. So BPH Energy was requested by two posters. One of those was on Twitter, another one was on YouTube, and Harvest Group was requested by the same person twice. So persistence again does pay in regards to me fulfilling a request to look at companies. So I don't know much about either of these companies. The only thing I know about BPH is that the share price has been quite volatile over the last few months. And when it comes to Harvest Group Technologies, I just see the word harvest and my mind just comes to agriculture, and this is not an agricultural company. So let's get into the first company, which is BPH Energy. What little I knew of BPH Energy before I went into doing a little bit of research into the company was completely wrong. So I thought they were a pure oil and gas play. I did know they had an interest in this PEP11, which is Petroleum Exploration Permit 11 in the offshore Sydney Basin, but I didn't realize how complex that interest was. So they have a 22% interest in a company called Advent Energy, and that company, Advent Energy, has 85% interest in PEP11. I believe the other 15% interest is owned by Bounty, which is a company on the ASX with a ticker code BUY. Now, BPH Energy do want to increase their 22% interest in Advent Energy to 33%. They've either done that or are in the throes of doing that right now. But as I was doing my research, I was surprised to find out they're a little bit more diversified than just being an oil and gas play. So this company, BPH Energy, is not an oil and gas company. It is actually an investment company, because not only do they have this 22% interest in Advent Energy, they have a 16% interest in a company called Cortical Dynamics, which is a medical device technology company, and their device is monitoring brain activity. So completely different than an oil and gas company. They also have a 10% interest in Patagonia Genetics, which is a marijuana company, and a 20% interest in Molecular Discovery Systems. So as I did my research, I found out this is a completely different company than I thought they were. A little bit more interesting company in my opinion as well. So if you are interested in these sort of companies, these investment companies, you'd have to get or do a little bit more research in each of these separate companies that BPH Energy have invested in. And some of these companies actually do sound interesting, and I need myself to do a little bit more research as well. Before I get into the present charts, I just want to go back in time and look at the chart from a period between January and August 2020, because some very interesting things happened with BPH during this period. Before April 2020, the share price and the volume in BPH were non-existent. Not much was happening with this company. And then towards the end of April, they went into a trading halt talking about a capital raising and a new investment relating to COVID-19. And then the shares were suspended from trading for about 2 months. And as soon as they came out of suspension, the share price rallied on high volume. Now, I could not find any information on this new investment related to COVID-19. There was nothing in their news announcements about it. So if you do know a little bit more about this company and about this sort of investment in regards to COVID-19, maybe you can leave a comment. But the main thing here was the share price rallied from this point on. So when they came out of suspension, the share price was between 1.5 and 2 cents, and the share price has gone higher ever since then. The sole reason BPH Energy came onto my radar was a share and volume action towards the end of January. On the 25th of January, the share price rose 70% on significant volume without there being any news. And when those three things come together, typically a company will receive a price and volume query from the ASX. The company responded with a few reasons why the share price might have increased by that amount in one day. Sometimes when you see a price and volume query, that can put a lid on the share price movement any further. It definitely didn't happen with BPH Energy, because the next day the share price rose 120%. on the one day. Now, when you see that sort of share price rise over a few days without there being any news, you definitely will see some profit takers coming into the market. You also see those FOMO investors who think they're going to be missing out on the next big thing, and they rush into the market without even doing any thought whatsoever. And we saw that fight between the FOMOs and those profit takers on the next day with a bit of a doji developing, and that's when the share price has moved. There's a lot of volatility in the share price action during the day, but the share price opens and closes around the same price, which just suggests there's a lot of fighting between the bulls and the bears, and the share price could go either way the next day. And on the next day, we saw the bulls lose, the bears win, share price decreased 29%. And after that, the share price started to decrease a little bit, going from around about, say, mid to high teens, and then fell down towards 10 cents. And then out of the blue, we saw another significant update, share price increasing 76% on larger volume, not quite as large volume as we saw previously. And just like the previous time, we did see the company receive a price and volume query. So unlike the last time when they received that price and volume query, the share price increased even further. For the following day, complete opposite reaction from the market. The share price decreased 25% on a little bit higher volume, but nothing that much. Share price then went sideways, and then seemingly out of the blue, the share price then decreased 36% in one day. And unlike the other two times when the company did receive a price volume query because the share price had increased on significant volume, this time the company had received a price volume query because the share price was decreasing on significant volume. After this price volume query, it seems like the day traders who love this sort of volatility exited the market for BPH Energy because the share price started to go sideways or just drift down very slowly on much lower volume. But we have seen over the past 7 trading days a little bit more interest coming into the market for BPH Energy. So definitely put this on your radar. If there's any sort of breakout above 10 cents, this could be a bit of a spec buy, spec trading buy, I would say. The next company I'll be looking at is Harvest Technology Group. So if you had to ask me what this company does before I did a little bit of research recently, I would have thought they had something to do with agriculture, some sort of tech in the ag sector. How wrong could I be? But it all made sense when I found out they changed the name from Smart Marine Systems, SM8, to Harvest Technology in April 2020. I did know a little bit about Smart Marine Systems, so it all made sense. I actually did know right then what this company did or does. So they do own 2 companies, 100% owned, Harvest Technology and Harvest Infinity. So Harvest Tech is a subsea technology solutions provider, and Harvest Infinity develops remote control, communication, automation, and monitoring solutions. So that's all and good, but what does this company do? Usually when I first start researching a company, I go straight to the most recent presentation, and in that way, the company does provide sort of a layman's terms of what the company does. So when I looked at the most recent presentation for Harvest Technology, it did give me some minor insights into the company, but I was still a little bit unclear on what the company exactly did. So I went into their website, looked at the annual report, and that's how I developed a more rounded version of my understanding of what this company does. But this slide here in the most recent presentation did give me a slight or better understanding of where they're heading or what they're interested in. So they're interested in communications, that's what I thought here, for remote areas. If you had to ask me what Harvest Group Technology does, I'd probably go back to one of their presentations, their most recent one, and they have it perfectly explained in that presentation. Now, when I first read these little comments, it didn't really click with me, so I had to do a little bit more research on what the company does, and eventually it all came together, and these 2 comments make much more sense. So what does Harvest Technology Group do? They turn subgrade connectivity into industrial grade connectivity, or in other words, allow streaming from remote locations where connectivity is poor or absent, and that might make a little bit more sense when I do the next few slides. So probably the best way to understand what Harvest Group technology is doing, why their technology is very beneficial, is to look at a couple of examples. So I'm providing two examples here. This is not a comprehensive look at all what they're doing. So they have many, I actually won't say they have fingers in many pies because they're not being overwhelmed by all they're doing, but they are doing a lot. So I do highly recommend going to the website and having a look at what they're doing, because they're doing a lot, and you do get a better understanding of where they're heading. You also get a better understanding of their technology they're using, because the technology they're using is slightly above my head, but I do have a slight idea of why they're doing it. But anyway, the first bit of technology is the Infinity Werewolf. I do like to play on words with that name. That's a first big tick. Anyway, this is a point-to-point video and communications for live analysis of critical tasks. This is especially useful in remote locations where there's extremely low bandwidth or poor quality. And they can send this live feed, so a video feed, as low as 32 kilobits per second. That's using their technology. And that's why their technology should be studied a little bit more if you don't quite understand it. Anyway, so the whole point of this is, say you have a worker at a remote location doing a critical task, and they're unsure of exactly what they're doing, maybe they think they're not doing it right. You can get an expert to provide analysis of what they're doing and help them go through the practice of doing whatever they're doing right. And that would be very beneficial for a few reasons: learning purposes, health and safety purposes, because if they're unsure of what they're doing, that means there's a higher risk of something bad happening. So definitely some benefits in this sort of technology. The second one is Infinity RIS, Remote Inspection System. So this is taking personnel away from a remote site. So for example, offshore subsea inspection. So you can have some sort of asset out to sea, and instead of sending your personnel out there to inspect it, you can send something there and it can be inspected remotely. So you can have your workers in the office looking at that site, offshore site, remotely. And Harvest Technology does provide that technology to be able to do that. Again, cost saving, health and safety aspects as well there. That's easy to understand the benefits of that piece of technology. Onto the charts for Harvest Group technology, and the first stop is looking at the 3-year weekly chart. So going back to April 2018, and between April 2018 and November 2019, there was nothing happening with this company. Share price was going sideways, not a lot of volume at all, so the market was not interested in this company at all. And then there was some sort of trigger in November 2019, which saw the share price re-rating and a long-term re-rating the share price as well. You see actually an exponential rise in the share price from November 2019 to around August or September 2020. Typically, when you see that exponential rise in share price, it can end in tears and you'll see a massive decrease in the share price after that rise. But with Harvest Group technology, the share price went sideways, which shows me there's some strength in the company and among the shareholders. And the other sign there is some strength in the shareholders and the company is when you look at the company's share price response to the COVID-19 financial panic. There was virtually none. So unlike most other companies on the ASX, the share price in Harvest Group technology did not fall all that much. In fact, if you took away the time and date stamp, you could not point out at all when COVID-19 financial panic happened. I went back to November 19 trying to find out what the catalyst was behind the re-rating in Harvest Group's share price, and there was nothing there. In fact, the company did receive a price and volume query from the ASX trying to understand why there was that increase in share price on larger volume, and really there was none at that point in time. So just the market was probably understanding what this company was doing, the benefits of what this company was doing for their customers and their stakeholders. So a very interesting looking chart. If I was a shareholder of this company right now, I definitely would not be selling, I'd be holding, because the share price has been going through a consolidation period and it could be breaking out anytime now. After looking at the longer term chart, so I do like to look at the 3-year, 5-year, even a 10-year monthly chart. I always hone in on the shorter term. So here I give you the 9-month daily chart for Harvest Group Technologies. On initial inspection of this chart, without putting any sort of uptrends on it, I would have probably said it's going sideways, but there is a slight increase in the share price over time, and that is shown with that sloping blue line. That's the uptrend line. There was a bit of a double top there towards the end of January and the middle of February, but I think that double top has played out because the share price did decrease from 45 cents to 30 cents. In fact, when the share price got down to 30 cents at the uptrend line, that would have been the perfect time to buy into Harvest Group if you were keen on buying into this company. So a positive looking chart right now. I do like these slow upward trend sort of companies, particularly when it's a company. I do like their technology. I do like where they're heading, and Harvest Group is that company right now. That's all I've got on this video of BPH Energy and Harvest Group Technologies. I want to thank those who did leave a request for me to look into these companies, and for the simple fact that I did learn a lot because of these requests. I really want to suggest, if you do have another request for me to look into a company that I haven't talked about in the past, leave it in the comment section of this video, because I've just found that just doing a little bit of research on these two companies did open my eyes a little bit more, that I'm missing a lot. My perceptions on companies can be wrong. So I just want to thank those who did request I look into these companies. And if you have a request for me to look into another company, leave it in the comments section. So that's all for this video. And I'm not a financial advisor, so if you do need to seek financial advice, make sure you seek out someone who is qualified and can speak to your own financial needs. Have a good day. See you later. Bye.